Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we will talk about John Webster's play, The Duchess of Malfi. The Duchess of Malfi, published in 1614. John Webster, 1578, 1632 or 34. The Duchess of Malfi is a tragedy of moral beauty destroyed by corruption, yet it transcends despair through its heroine's dignity and strength. It refuses Renaissance grandeur with a modern psychological depth, standing as a timeless explanation of power, love, and integrity in a fallen world. The work was written circa 1613 or 14 and first performed around 1614 by the King's Men, that is Shakespeare's company, and the work was first published in 1623. It's a revenge tragedy. The setting is the court of Malfi, Italy, early 16th century. Introduction and the background of the work. John Webster's The Duchess of Malfi stands as a masterpiece of Jacobean tragedy, blending psychological realism, poetic beauty, and a macabre horror. Based on real events recorded in William Paynter's work, The Palace of Pleasure, 1567, it dramatizes the story of Giovanna di Aragon, Duchess of Amalfi, who secretly marries her steward and was murdered by her brothers for defying social and patriarchal conventions. The play reflects Webster's characteristic vision of a world decaying under moral corruption, illuminated by rare flashes of human dignity and courage. Let's have a look at the major characters. The Duchess, a young noble widow of strength, intelligence, and integrity, who defies her brothers by marrying her steward Antonio. She symbolizes female autonomy, moral courage, and spiritual purity. The next character, Antonio Bologna. The Duchess' steward and a secret husband, representing honesty, virtue, and reason. Next up we have Ferdinand, the Duchess' twin brother, a duke consumed by incestuous obsession, rage, and madness. Next is the Cardinal, the elder brother, a corrupt churchman, called manipulative and hypocritical. Next we have Bazola, a malcontent spy employed by the brothers, who later becomes the instrument of both the Duchess' death and his own remorse. Next we have Cariola, the Duchess' maid, loyal and devoted. Next we have Delio, Antonio's friend, the moral observer and a commentator of the play. Next character is Julia, the Cardinal's mistress, later a victim of his cruelty. Now let's look at the structure and division of the play. The play is divided into 5 acts, following the classical tragic structure. Act first, secret marriage. The Duchess' brothers, Ferdinand and the Cardinal, warn her against remarriage to protect their family's honor and inheritance. Despite their threats, the Duchess defies them and secretly marries Antonio with Cariola as witness. The act ends with the theme of love versus tyranny. Act second, discovery and betrayal. Bazola posing as a servant, spies on the Duchess and discovers her pregnancy. He sends Ferdinand a token confirming her secret life. Ferdinand's rage grows into near madness. His obsession hints at an incestuous desire for his sister. Act 3. Exile and Fall. Ferdinand confronts the Duchess, condemns her marriage, and banishes her and her husband Antonio. The Duchess, noble and composed, accepts her fate with dignity. Ferdinand's reaction becomes increasingly deranged. His cruelty now appears as psychological perversion. Act 4. Imprisonment and Death. The Duchess is imprisoned by Bozzola in a dark, haunted setting, symbolizing moral and physical corruption. Ferdinand's cruel devices. Wax figures of her dead husband and children, madmen as tormentors, are psychological torture. The Duchess faces death calmly, saying, "I am Duchess of Malfi still." Bozzola strangles her shortly after he repents in anguish. In Act 5, there is retribution and aftermath. The Cardinal and Ferdinand both descend into guilt and madness. Ferdinand kills his brother in a frenzy, and Bozzola kills Ferdinand before dying himself. Delio arrives with the Duchess' son, symbolizing the continuation of virtue and hope amid destruction. Now let's talk about the themes in the work. Corruption and power. Webster portrays a society poisoned by moral decay. The Cardinal's hypocrisy and Ferdinand's tyranny reflect a world where political and religious institutions are corrupt. Gender and patriarchy. The Duchess challenges patriarchal control by choosing her own husband. Her courage defies the belief that women should be passive or dependent. Webster elevates her to a tragic heroine of conscience and autonomy. Madness and obsession. Ferdinand's descent into lycanthropy, that is, wolf madness, mirrors his sexual repression and guilt. Madness is not just personal, but a reflection of the diseased state of society. Death and transcendence. Death pervades the play. Here Webster presents it as a spiritual release rather than defeat. The Duchess's serenity in death contrasts with her brother's moral disintegration. Revenge and justice. Bozzola's transformation from spy to avenger explores the complex morality of revenge, both destructive and redemptive. Appearances versus reality. The court's grandeur hides corruption. The Cardinal, a churchman, is morally bankrupt. Bozzola, the villain, becomes the voice of conscience. Now let's talk about the symbolism and the imagery used in the play. Darkness and light. The imagery of night, shadow and decay pervades the play, reflecting the moral blindness of the characters. The skull and corruption. Frequent references to death, bonds and decay symbolize the transience of worldly glory. Animals and madness. Ferdinand's lycanthropy and references to beasts express his loss of reason and humanity. The wedding ring symbolizes both love and defiance. It becomes a token of spiritual integrity. The echo scene in Act 5 is the Duchess' voice from the grave, An echo signifies her enduring spiritual presence and Webster's metaphysical imagination. Now let's talk about the style and the language. Webster's style is marked by dense imagery and metaphors drawn from religion, medicine, and the natural world. Eloquent, haunting poetry mingled with horror. For example, the line, "Cover her face, mine eyes dazzle, she died young." Psychological realism. Characters' inner conflicts are revealed through intense soliloquies. Prose and verse blend. Comic realism, that is Basola's wit, contrasts with a high tragic poetry. His language is musical and macabre, reflecting his belief in the fragility of human virtues amid a corruption. The Duchess as a tragic heroine. The Duchess stands as one of the greatest female figures in world drama. She embodies stoic courage, moral integrity, and spiritual grace. Her assertion, that is, "I am Duchess of Malfi still," even in the face of death, marks her as a symbol of inner sovereignty. Her tragedy is both a personal and a universal, the destruction of purity by a corrupt world. Through her, Webster anticipates modern feminist readings. She dies not as a victim, but as a self-realized soul who defies oppression. Basola is the malcontent and a conscience. Basola is one of Webster's most complex creatures. Initially cynical, he becomes haunted by guilt and compassion. His moral awakening, that is, "O penitence, let me truly taste thy cup," is central to the play's moral resolution. He embodies the Jacobean conflict between corruption and conscience, a tragic mirror of the age's moral uncertainty. The tone and the atmosphere of the work. The play's tone is one of a decaying grandeur and a spiritual intensity. It combines courtly elegance with a moral darkness, horror with a transcendent beauty, violence with a poetic serenity. This fusion gives the Duchess of Malfi its haunting, almost a gothic quality. Now let's have a look at the critical interpretations of the work. Feminist reading. The play critiques the suppression of female desire and agency in a patriarchal society. Psychological reading. Ferdinand's madness and incestuous impulses expose the repressed sexuality of the ruling class. Religious reading. The play contrasts Catholic corruption with a spiritual purity. The Duchess becomes almost a martyr. Existential reading. The Duchess's courage in the face of absurd cruelty anticipates modern existential heroism. Now let's talk about the legacy and the influence of the work. The work is considered Webster's greatest work. It influenced the later dramatists and modern writers like T.S. Eliot, Charles Lamb, and Tennessee Williams. T.S. Eliot wrote that Webster saw the skull beneath the skin, capturing his fascination with mortality and decay. Modern productions emphasize the Duchess' feminist and humanistic dimensions, making the play profoundly relevant even today.